A stranger's hug at my doorstep felt warm, welcoming, until I learned he was a monster hiding in plain sight. In 2012, I sold a sports bag on Craigslist, thinking it was a quick deal. Instead, I brushed shoulders with a criminal who'd haunt my nightmares. My name's Noah, a 25-year-old software engineer in Sarasota, Florida. I just landed a dream job at a tech startup, moved into my first apartment, and was ready to start fresh. This happened when I was in my mid-20s back in 2012, when I was living in Sarasota, Florida. Because of this job, I was able to move out of my parents' house and get an apartment. I had some things I didn't need that I put up for sale on Craigslist. One of the items I had listed was this large tote I had used back when I played sports. I figured I'd snag a deal on it since sports were popular in my town. The tote, a bulky black bag from my high school soccer days, was cluttering my closet. I listed it for $50, expecting a local jock to bite. Maybe a coach or a dad buying for his kid. I'd say within a day I had gotten a message from someone nearby interested in the toad. He seemed nice, didn't live too far, and was willing to pay more than what I was listing it for. The buyer, Lucas, offered $100. No haggling, just a quick "I'll come by tonight." His profile had no photo, just a generic avatar, but his messages were polite, almost too formal, like he'd rehearsed them. He'd offered to just meet me at my apartment. I hesitated. Giving a stranger my address felt risky, even in a safe town like Sarasota. But I was broke, still paying off student loans, and $100 was a windfall. I agreed, setting a 7 p.m. meetup at my place. Later that night, I hear a knock at the door and was greeted to a man who looked to be in his mid-30s, with this Swedish accent. He immediately goes to hug me, telling me that it was a nice way of saying hello in Sweden. His embrace was tight, lingering a beat too long, his cologne sharp and chemical. I pulled back, uneasy, but forced to smile. I gladly give it to him, and he then proceeds to pull out a $100 bill and hands it to me. His fingers brushed mine, deliberate, as he handed over the cash. He took the bag, thanked me with a curt nod, and left in a dark sedan. I locked the door, my gut twisting. Something about Lucas, his accent, his touch, the way his eyes lingered, felt wrong. The next day I tried to shake it off. Sarasota was all sunshine, palm trees, and beach vibes, not a place for paranoia. I went to work, coded apps, grabbed coffee with coworkers, and pushed Lucas to the back of my mind. But that night, walking home from a diner, I noticed a car idling across the street. A dark sedan, lights off, engine humming. I couldn't see the driver, but the hairs on my neck stood up. Was it Lucas? I hurried inside, double-checking the locks. My apartment, a cozy one-bedroom with big windows, felt exposed, its glass panes offering no protection. I told myself I was overreacting, but the unease lingered, like a shadow I couldn't outrun. I checked my phone, half expecting a message from Lucas, but there was nothing. Just silence, heavy and unsettling. 2 days later, my world turned upside down. 2 days later, I happened to be sick on this day and then called off work to rest as I'm taking a nap in my room. I hear a heavy knocking on my door. I opened the door and was greeted to 2 police officers and a property manager. My heart sank as I saw their grim faces. The officers, stern and all business, held up a grainy photo. They then asked if I knew this person. The property manager showed me a photo of a man who just so happens to be the guy I had sold the tow to. I tell them yes and explained that I had sold him a bag, but that was all I ever knew about him. Lucas Bergstrom, the officer said, his voice clipped. You sure this is him? I nodded, my mouth dry. They exchanged glances, then said, We need you at the station. My stomach churned as I grabbed my keys, mind racing. What had I done? At the precinct, they grilled me. When did I meet Lucas? What did he say? Did he act strange? I told them about the hug, the $100, the bag, my voice shaking. They didn't share much, only that Lucas was a person of interest in a serious case. I went home shaken, my apartment feeling like a crime scene. That night I found a note slipped under my door. Stay quiet. No signature, just those 2 words in sharp, jagged handwriting. My pulse raced. Was this Lucas? Someone else? I called the police, but they brushed it off. No fingerprints, no proof. Probably a prank, one said, but their eyes said otherwise. Next morning I noticed my mailbox was ajar. Inside was a single photo. Me standing at my door the night Lucas came, my face lit by the porch light. My blood ran cold. Someone was watching me, had been watching me. I installed a cheap security camera. Its grainy feed my only defense. For a week, nothing happened, but I barely slept, jumping at every creak, every car passing by. My coworker Anna noticed my red eyes at work. "Noah, you look like hell," she said over lunch. I told her bits, Lucas, the police, the note. "Get out of that apartment," she urged, her voice low. But I couldn't afford to move, not yet. Instead, I started digging online, searching Lucas Bergstrom. Nothing came up, but a local news article caught my eye. A string of Craigslist scams in Florida. Buyers meeting sellers who vanished after odd encounters. One victim described a man with a European accent, offering cash up front. My stomach churned. Was Lucas part of this? Then one night the camera pinged. I opened the app, heart pounding, and saw a figure outside my window. Hood up, face obscured. He stood motionless, then slipped something under the door and vanished into the dark. I grabbed a kitchen knife, crept to the door, and found another note. "You talked." My hands shook as I called the police again. They came, took the note, but found no trace of the figure. "Probably kids," one cop said, but I knew better. Lucas or someone tied to him was closing in and I was running out of time. The note stopped, but the fear didn't. I barely left my apartment, working from home, avoiding windows. My friends checked on me. Ben brought pizza. Anna texted, daily. But I felt alone, trapped in a game I didn't understand. Then, a week later, the police called. "We need you at the station," the officer said, his voice tight. At the precinct, they dropped a bombshell. It wasn't until a few days later where I had finally gotten my answer. Turns out the man I had sold the bag to had been wanted for owning 23 terabytes of CP. The tone I had sold him was to keep certain documents that contained information on how to cover his tracks. Lucas wasn't just a scammer. He was a fugitive, linked to a massive network trafficking illegal content across the dark web. I was interviewed for about a week by police before my complete shock slowly got back to normal. After that, I deleted my entire Craigslist account and decided to not sell anything else. The officer showed me evidence. The bag I sold contained encrypted drives, instructions for evading law enforcement, coded messages. Lucas had used Craigslist to move his tools, targeting sellers like me to stay under the radar. But there was more. "He's not working alone," the officer said, his face grim. They'd found connections to a syndicate operating across the South, using online platforms to launder data, traffic materials, and worse. My photo, the notes, they were warnings from Lucas's associates, meant to silence me before I could talk. I felt sick, my mind reeling. I'd been a pawn in something monstrous. My $100 deal a brush with pure evil. Back home, I couldn't shake the images. Lucas's hug, the drives in that bag, the figure at my window. My apartment felt tainted, every creak a threat. I told Anna, everything over coffee, my voice barely above a whisper. "You need to move, Noah," she said, her eyes wide. But I was paralyzed. afraid Lucas's network was still watching. The police offered witness protection, but I refused. I wasn't criminal, just a guy who sold a bag. Instead, I upgraded my security. Deadbolts, motion lights, a second camera. I started carrying a pocket knife, checking the feed obsessively. Sarasota's sunny streets felt like a lie, hiding predators in plain sight. I stopped going out at night, avoided crowded places, my world shrinking to my apartment's four walls. A month later, a news alert pinged. Florida man arrested in cybercrime sting. It was Lucas, caught in a raid, his drives seized. But the article mentioned associates at large, and my heart sank. Were they the ones leaving notes? Watching me? The police couldn't confirm, but they found my photo in Lucas's apartment, pinned to a wall with other sellers' faces, men and women, young and old, all targeted. I wasn't his only mark, just the one who got away. The realization hit hard. I'd been inches from disaster, my life a footnote in a criminal's playbook. Lucas was behind bars, but I didn't feel safe. I moved to a new apartment across town, left no forwarding address, and swore off Craigslist for good. I hope you can take this as a learning opportunity to never trust people online. My life in Sarasota went on, coding apps, grabbing coffee, walking the beach, but the innocence was gone. Every stranger's glance felt like a threat, every knock a warning. I installed cameras at my new place, kept my knife close, and stopped sharing personal details online. The world felt darker, full of hidden predators like Lucas, blending into everyday life. I shared my story on a forum, urging others to be careful, on Craigslist. The responses were chilling. Sellers who'd met creepy buyers received strange notes or felt watched after deals. One guy in Tampa described a man with a European accent buying his old laptop, then sending cryptic texts days later. Another in Miami sold a camera to a buyer who asked odd questions about his routine. Was it Lucas's network or copycats? I started a group to share safety tips. Meet in public, use burner emails, never invite buyers to your home. It turned my fear into purpose, helping others avoid my mistake, giving me a sense of control, and the police never caught Lucas's associates, and that haunts me. I check news obsessively for updates, half expecting another arrest, or worse, a knock at my door. Every unfamiliar car makes my pulse race. Every shadow a reminder of that hug, that moment I let a monster into my life. I'm more cautious now, trusting my gut, verifying strangers before any deal. If I'd questioned Lucas's offer, his too perfect $100, I'd have stayed safe. Don't ignore red flags, they're your shield. Online deals seem harmless, but they're doorways for monsters waiting for you to open them. Stay sharp, protect yourself, and never let a stranger get too close. At 2 a.m., in the dead quiet of my Portland apartment, my phone's glow was the only light cutting through the dark. I was scrolling, lost in a rabbit hole of videos, when a chill ran down my spine. I had this gut feeling someone was watching me, like eyes were boring into me from the shadows. I froze, my thumb hovering over the screen as the glow of my phone screen lit up the room, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Then I heard it, a faint creak like someone stepping on the floorboards. My heart stopped. Was I alone? Or was someone already inside waiting for me to make a move? This isn't just about a creepy night. It's about the moment I realized my home wasn't safe. Stick around, because what I found next will haunt you. My name's Lila, a 24-year-old barista living in a cramped Portland apartment, the kind with thin walls and a view of a rainy alley. I'd moved here after college, chasing a fresh start, but the city's charm hid a grittier side. Break-ins weren't uncommon in my neighborhood. I was alone in my apartment late at night, My only company the hum of the fridge and my phone's endless scroll. I'd always felt safe enough, but lately things felt off. Every shadow seemed to move, like the dark was playing tricks on me. I'd noticed odd details. A scratched lock on my door, a cigarette butt outside my window. A faint knock at midnight that stopped when I turned on the light. I told myself it was paranoia. City living, right? But the unease grew. A knot in. My gut I couldn't shake. 2 weeks earlier, I'd started getting weird texts from an unknown number. Random emojis, no words. I blocked them, but they kept coming from new numbers. Then my mailbox was pried open, my bills scattered in the rain. I reported it to the landlord, who shrugged it off as kids. But kids don't leave boot prints in the mud by your stoop. I bought a cheap security camera, the kind you stick to the wall, but it kept glitching, showing nothing but static at night. The light was bright enough to cast shadows, and I'd taken to keeping my phone's brightness low, afraid it'd draw attention through the blinds. I had this gut feeling someone was watching me, a prickling on my neck that made me double-check the locks. My best friend Mia thought I was stressed, but I wasn't imagining the creaks in my floorboards or the way my cat Juno would hiss at the door. That night, I was deep in a true crime podcast, my phone's glow my only light. The glow of my phone screen lit up the room, painting the walls with shifting shapes. I'd ignored the unease for too long, but now it was undeniable. Every shadow seemed to move, and I couldn't tell if it was my mind or something real. I turned down the podcast, straining to listen, and that's when it hit. A faint creak like someone stepping on the floorboards, followed by a soft thud, like something dropped. My pulse spiked. Juno's ears flattened. Her eyes locked on the hallway. Someone was in my apartment, and my phone's light was a beacon, screaming my location. Be careful when you're alone, I'd been told, but I hadn't listened. Now, I was trapped, and the darkness was no longer my friend. My heart hammered as I stared into the dark. Juno's low growl the only sound besides my ragged breathing. I turned off my phone, plunging the room into darkness, the glow vanishing like a lifeline snuffed out. But the feeling of being watched got worse, a suffocating weight pressing on my chest. I hid under the blankets, my heart pounding, trying not to breathe too loud, every muscle tensed, waiting for the next sound. Was it a burglar? A creep from the alley, or something worse? I heard a faint creak, like someone stepping on the floorboards, then another, closer, deliberate. A soft thud, like something dropped, echoed from the kitchen. My mind raced. Had I locked the back door? I'd checked the front, but the back, I couldn't remember. The noises stopped, but I was sure someone was still there, their presence. A shadow I couldn't see but felt in my bones. I clutched my phone, debating whether to call 911. What would I say? I heard a creak. They'd think I was crazy. But Juno's hiss grew sharper, her claws digging into the bed. I peeked from under the blankets, eyes straining in the dark. A faint silhouette moved across the hallway, too tall, too solid to be a trick of light. My blood ran cold. Someone was in my apartment, and they knew I was here. I slid off the bed, crawling to the closet, my hands shaking as I eased the door shut. The air was thick, every sound amplified. The creak of a floorboard, the rustle, a fabric. I held my breath, praying they'd leave, but then my phone vibrated, the screen flashing before I could stop it. The glow of my phone screen lit up the room, a traitor's beacon in the dark. I fumbled to silence it, but it was too late. Footsteps paused, then turned toward the closet. I stuffed the phone under my shirt, my pulse deafening. The footsteps stopped outside the closet door, so close I could hear breathing, slow, deliberate. My hand closed around a shoe, the only weapon I had, as I braced for the door to open. But then a louder crash came from the living room, Juno knocking something over. The footsteps retreated, fast, toward the noise. I seized the chance, creeping out of the closet to the bedroom door, locking it with a soft click. I dialed 911, whispering, "Someone's in my apartment," my voice barely audible. The operator told me to stay put, but I heard the back door creak open, then slam shut. The noises stopped, but I was sure someone was still there, lurking just outside, waiting for me to let my guard down. I stayed locked in my room, Juno pressed against me, until sirens wailed nearby. The police searched the apartment, finding nothing but a toppled lamp and a faint scratch on the back door. They said I was lucky, but I didn't feel it. I can't shake the feeling someone was in my apartment, and I knew they'd be back. The next morning, I checked every inch of the place. The next morning, I found the window slightly open, a sliver of cold air seeping through. There were muddy footprints by the door, smudged but unmistakable. My stomach churned. Someone had been inside, and I'd been inches from them. I called the police, but they couldn't find anyone, their report dismissive. No fingerprints, no suspect. But I found something they missed. A folded note under my couch scrawled in black ink, "You're not alone." No signature, just those words, chilling me to the core. Every night I'm terrified it'll happen again. Sleeping with a knife under my pillow, Juno my only sentinel. Someone was watching, and my apartment was no longer home. It was a trap. The note under my couch changed everything. I didn't feel safe in my own skin, let alone my apartment. I showed the note to Mia, who insisted I stay with her. But I couldn't run. I needed answers. I can't shake the feeling someone was in my apartment. A truth that gnawed at me every time I closed my eyes. I upgraded my security. New locks, a better camera, motion sensors. But the fear was relentless. Every night I'm terrified it'll happen again, waking to every creak. Juno's hiss is my only warning. I started digging, desperate to know who'd been in my home. The camera footage was useless, glitching at the exact moment the back door opened. But I found a partial fingerprint on the window frame. The police dismissed it, too smudged. But I sent it to a private lab, a long shot that cost half my savings. While waiting for results, I scoured my life for clues. The texts from unknown numbers had stopped, but I found a pattern. They'd started after I'd posted about my new job on social media. Had I been targeted? I remembered a regular at the coffee shop, a quiet guy named Derek who'd lingered too long asking personal questions. He'd stopped coming after the break-in, his absence now suspicious. I tracked down his name through a co-worker, Derek Holt. No criminal record, but a quick search showed he'd lived in my building a year ago. My skin crawled. Had he been watching me since then, waiting for a chance? The lab results came back. A partial match to Holt. Not enough for an arrest, but enough to make me act. I went to the police, showing them the note, the footprint photos, and Holt's history. They agreed to question him, but warned he'd moved. No forwarding address. Frustrated, I kept digging, finding a storage unit registered to Holt nearby. Against Mia's warnings, I broke in late at night, my heart pounding as I cut the lock. Inside, I found a shrine. Photos of me, my work schedule, even a map of my apartment. My knees buckled. There were muddy footprints by the door, identical to those in my apartment, and a laptop with files labeled Lila. I grabbed the laptop and fled, calling the police from Mia's place. They raided Holt's last known address, finding more evidence. Keys to my building, a burner phone matching the texts. Holt was arrested a week later, caught breaking into another woman's apartment. The laptop revealed he'd stalked 3, others using their social media to map their lives. My photos were his first collection, a chilling trophy. The police called me lucky, but I felt violated, my life exposed. I called the police, but they couldn't find anyone initially. And now I knew why. Holt was a ghost, slipping through cracks until I forced their hand. I moved to a new apartment, changed my number, locked down my online presence, but the fear lingered. I can't shake the feeling someone was in my apartment even with Holt behind bars. What if he wasn't alone? The note's handwriting didn't match his. Someone else had written it, someone still out there. Every night I'm terrified it'll happen again, checking my camera feeds, Juno my only comfort. My home was a battlefield, and I was still fighting. Holt was sentenced to 7 years for stalking and burglary, his collection exposed in court. I sat in the back, my stomach twisting as he stared at the floor, never meeting my eyes. The police never found the note's author, a loose end that haunts me. I can't shake the feeling someone was in my apartment, a shadow I carry everywhere. I moved again, to a high-security building, but every night, terrified it'll happen again, waking to check locks, Juno's eyes my only calm. Therapy helps, teaching me to manage the fear, but my trust is gone. Be careful when you're alone. I learned the hard way. Check your locks, trust your instincts. They're your first defense. That phone's glow wasn't just light. It was a signal, drawing Holt to me like a moth to flame. I've changed how I live. No social media oversharing, no late-night scrolling with the blinds open. I carry pepper spray, keep my camera feeds live, and Juno sleeps closer now, my furry guardian. The police say Holt acted alone, but the note's handwriting keeps me up, a reminder someone else might be watching. I joined a support group for stalking victims, finding strength in shared stories, but the fear is a scar. Be careful when you're alone, I tell them, because I wasn't, and it nearly cost me everything. Check your locks, trust your instincts, because predators don't always knock. They slip in silent until you're trapped. My story isn't just about surviving a stalker. It's a wake-up call. Trust your instincts, that gut feeling that saved me when I hid, when I fought back. Lock your doors, dim your screens, and watch your digital footprint. Every post, every check-in is a map to your life. Holt used my openness against me, and someone else might be doing the same to you. Be careful when you're alone because the world's full of Holts, waiting for a light to guide them. But it's also full of Lilas, people who can fight back, who can survive, if they listen to that inner voice. Don't wait for the creak, the thud, the note. Act now, protect yourself, and never let the dark catch you off guard. The lights flicker downstairs, a pulsing glow that shouldn't be there. It's 1:12 a.m., and I'm alone in our crumbling house on the edge of a quiet Pennsylvania suburb, the kind where streetlights die out, and the nearest neighbor is a quarter-mile away, past an old cemetery. I'm mid-game, headset on, my screen flashing with gunfire, but that light, it's wrong. The house is dark when I'm alone. No one's here to turn it on. Or so I thought. I'm Ethan, 19, crashing at my sister's place while she's away for the weekend. It was just another night of gaming with my friends online, Call of Duty, trash talking through Discord, the usual. Jenna's house is a fixer-upper, all creaky floors and drafty windows, perched on a street that feels forgotten. I'm used to it, but tonight, something's off. The flickering stops, then starts again, like someone's flipping a switch. I pause the game, my heart ticking faster. Yo, Ryan, you hear that? I mutter into the mic. He laughs. Hear what? Your ghost roommate? I force a chuckle, but my eyes are glued to the stairwell. I mute my mic, listening. Silence, thick and heavy, presses against the walls. I heard a faint noise like footsteps or a door creaking somewhere in the house. I tell myself it's the cat, Muffin, knocking over a lamp. but Muffin's asleep on the couch. I grab my phone, shining its light down the stairs. The living room's empty, but the lamp's on, casting jagged shadows. I swear I turned it off. My skin prickles. Someone or something is in the house. I creep downstairs, phone light shaking in my hand. The lamp's still on, its bulb humming faintly. I flick it off, plunging the room into darkness. My heart's pounding, but I tell myself it's nothing. Old wiring, maybe. At first I thought it was just the house settling or maybe the cat, but my gut told me something was wrong. I checked the front door, locked, the windows secure. But the air feels heavy, like someone's watching. I unmute my mic. "Ryan, I'm freaking out. Something's weird here." He scoffs. "Dude, it's just your imagination. Chill." I want to believe him, but that uneasy feeling wouldn't go away like I was being watched. I head to the kitchen, scanning for anything out of place. The back door's locked, but the window above the sink has a smudge, a greasy handprint too big to be Jenna's. My stomach twists. Was that there before? I wipe it away, pulse racing, and peek outside. The backyard's dark, but the motion. Lights off. Then a faint scrape like metal on wood comes from the garage. I freeze. Jenna's car is gone. No one should be out there. I grab a flashlight from the drawer, my hands sweaty. "Ryan, I heard something in the garage," I whisper. He's serious now. "Check it, but be careful, maybe call the cops." I don't want to overreact, but the smudge, the scrape, it's too much. I open the garage door, flashlight beam, slicing through the dark. Tools, boxes, nothing else. But the side door's ajar, just an inch. I slam it shut, locking it, my mind screaming, someone was here. I run back inside, bolting every door, my breath ragged. This isn't my imagination. Back in my room, I lock the door. Headset off. The game forgotten. The house is silent, but the noises got louder, like something heavy was moving downstairs. A low thud, like a chair scraping, echoes from the living room. My heart's in my throat. I grab the baseball bat from under my bed. Its weight reassuring, but not enough. "Ryan." "It's getting worse," I type on Discord. He replies, "Dude, call 911 now." I hesitate. What if it's nothing? But my gut was screaming that something was seriously wrong. I creep to the stairs, bat raised, phone in my pocket. The living room's dark again, but the lamp's back. My blood runs cold. I turned it off, I know I did. I scan the room, and there, on the coffee table, a glass of water I didn't pour. It's half empty, condensation dripping. Someone's been here, inside. I back away, my breath shallow, and notice something else. A muddy footprint on the rug leading toward the basement. Jenna never goes down there. Neither do I. I bolt to the hallway closet, hiding inside with the bat ready to swing if I had to. The door's slatted, letting me peek out. My phone's at 10%, but I text Ryan. Footprints inside, I'm hiding. He's typing back when another sound cuts through. A faint creak, like the basement door opening. My whole body locks up. I grip the bat, praying it's just the house settling. But then a shadow moves across the hallway, tall and slow, pausing at the foot of the stairs. I bite my fist to keep from screaming. I'm curled in the closet, bat trembling in my hands, the shadow still in the hallway. Then I heard a loud crash, like glass breaking somewhere in the house. My heart stops. It's the kitchen window. I know that sound. Footsteps thud, heavy and fast, moving toward the living room. I fumble for my phone, dialing 911, whispering, "Someone's in my house. 47 Maple Street, hurry!" The operator's calm voice feels miles away. "Stay hidden. Help's coming." But the footsteps are closer, creaking up the stairs. I press. myself deeper into the closet, clothes muffling my breath. The shadow pauses outside the door, so close I can hear breathing, slow, deliberate. My bat's useless if he opens the door. I squeeze my eyes shut, praying for sirens. Then a new sound, tires on gravel. Headlights flood the house, red and blue. The shadow bolts, footsteps pounding downstairs. A door slams, sirens wail. I stay frozen until a cop's voice booms. "Police, anyone here?" I stumble out, bat clattering, and find 2 officers in the living room. When I finally came out, I found a broken window in the kitchen and muddy footprints leading out the EO. Back door. The cops search the house, nothing's stolen, no one's there. They say it's probably a burglar spooked by their arrival. But I was terrified and didn't feel safe staying alone after that. I called Jenna, begging her to come home. She's an hour away, but promises to hurry. Jenna gets home at 3 a.m., hugging me tight, saying it's over. I never felt safe in that house again, and I still get chills thinking about that night. The cops leave, promising extra patrols, but their words feel hollow. I show Jenna the broken window, the footprints, the smudge on the sink. She blames local teens, but I know better. That handprint wasn't a kid's. That shadow wasn't a prank. The next day, I find something else. A rusted key tucked under the kitchen rug near the footprints. It's old, heavy, not one of Jenna's. My stomach churns. Was it dropped by whoever was here? I don't tell Jenna, but I keep it, hiding it in my desk. At school, I overhear kids talking about a string of break-ins nearby. Houses hit at night. Nothing big stolen, just small things. A watch, a photo, a key. One girl swears she saw a man in a hoodie watching her house last week. My skin crawls. Was it him? I dig online, finding a local news article. Rash of break-ins in Westfield. Police suspect lone perpetrator. The description's vague. No. Arrests, no clear motive. But a forum post chills me. Guy broke into my neighbor's place last month, left a key under their rug. Cops said it's his calling card. My hands shake. I pull out the key, its edges biting my palm. Is this his mark? Was he coming back? Weeks pass and no more break-ins hit our street. Jenna fixes the window, adds new locks, but I can't shake the feeling of being watched. I stop gaming late, too afraid to lose myself in a headset. One night I'm scrolling through the forum again, and a new post stops me. Westfield break-in. Last night, same guy left a key. Cops think he's targeting empty houses. My throat tightens. Jenna's leaving for another trip soon. Will he know I'm alone again? I never see him. The news stops reporting the break-ins and the key stays in my desk, a silent warning. But I know he's out there, watching, waiting for the next empty house, the next unlocked door. What did he want? To steal? To scare? Or something worse? In a world where shadows move and keys appear, safety is just a lock away from breaking. You're driving home late, the road empty when headlights flare in your rearview mirror. A black SUV tails you too close, matching every turn. You speed up, it follows. You slow down, it creeps closer. The driver's face is a shadow, but you feel their eyes. Watching, waiting. This isn't road rage, it's something darker and it's locked onto you. My name's Mia, and one night a woman in a black SUV turned my routine drive into a nightmare that still haunts me. For privacy, I'm keeping details vague. No real names or towns. I was 24, living in a quiet suburb, working late shifts at a diner. My life was simple. Work, home, repeat. That night I finished my shift around 1 a.m. and got into my car. The parking lot was deserted, the air heavy with summer heat. As I pulled onto the main road, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street, its lights off. I didn't think much of it, maybe someone waiting for a friend. But as I drove, the SUV's headlights snapped on, and it slid onto the road behind me. My gut told me something was wrong. I turned left, it followed. I took a random right, it stayed close. My heart started to race. I sped up, hoping to lose it, but the SUV matched my speed. Never more than a car length away. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone was tailing me and I had no idea why. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white as the SUV clung to my tail. I pulled into a gas station, hoping the lights and cameras would scare them off. The SUV slowed but didn't stop, circling the lot like a shark. I parked near the pumps, heart hammering, and watched through my side mirror. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a woman, mid-30s, blonde, staring right at me. Her expression wasn't angry or blank. It was intense. Like she knew me, she didn't get out, just sat there watching. I fumbled for my phone, ready to call 911, but hesitated. What would I say? A woman's looking at me? Instead, I locked my doors and waited, eyes glued to her. Minutes passed, feeling like hours. Finally, she drove off, but not before giving me one last look, a smile that chilled me. I stayed put, too shaken to move. When I finally pulled out, the roads were empty, but I couldn't shake the feeling she was still out there. At home, I checked my locks twice, my diner uniform still. The next night, she was back. Same SUV, same spot across from the diner. This time, she followed me halfway home before peeling off. It wasn't random, she was targeting me. I started noticing details, a dent on her bumper, a sticker on her windshield. I wrote them down, my hands shaking. Was she a customer? A neighbor? I racked my brain but came up empty. The diner's security cameras were ancient, barely working, but I begged my boss to check them. Nothing clear, just a blurry figure near the SUV. The third night, I took a different route home, weaving through back roads. The SUV was waiting at an intersection, lights off, like she knew I'd be there. My stomach dropped. She wasn't just following me, she was predicting me. I floored it, heart in my throat, and lost her in a maze of side streets. At home, I found a note taped to my mailbox. "You're not alone." No signature, just block letters. I called the police, but they were dismissive. No crime, no evidence, just a, "We'll keep an eye out." I felt trapped, my safe little life unraveling. I started carrying pepper spray, checking my car for trackers. Every shadow, every car felt like her. I confided in a co-worker, Rachel, who'd seen the woman at the diner once. "She sat in the corner staring at you all night," Rachel said. "Didn't eat, just drank coffee." That memory hit hard. Woman I'd barely noticed, now a phantom in my life. I dug deeper, asking regulars if they recognized her description. One guy, a trucker, said he'd seen her SUV parked near the diner for weeks, always late at night. I checked my apartment's security footage, hoping for a lead. One clip showed the SUV idling across the street, the woman's silhouette inside, watching my building. My skin crawled. She knew where I lived. The notes kept coming. "I'm always here. You can't run." I installed a dash cam, started parking in different spots, but nothing stopped her. The police found no prints, no leads. Rachel suggested I move, but I couldn't afford it. I was a waitress, scraping by. The fear was suffocating, turning every drive into a game of survival. Was she obsessed? Dangerous? Or was I losing it, seeing threats where none existed? A week later, the nightmare peaked. I left the diner early, checking my mirrors obsessively. The SUV appeared behind me, closer than ever, high beams blinding. I swerved into a busy shopping plaza, hoping for witnesses. The SUV followed, parking a few spaces away. She got out this time, tall, blonde, wearing sunglasses at night. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone, recording her. She walked toward my car, slow, deliberate, that same eerie smile. I locked my doors, heart pounding, and called 911. "She's here right now," I told the operator, voice cracking. The woman stopped a few feet away, staring, then turned and walked back to her SUV. Sirens wailed in the distance and she sped off. The police caught her a mile away. Her name was Ellen, a stranger with no clear motive. They found notes in her car identical to mine and photos of me, dozens taken over weeks. Ellen claimed she was protecting me, but her ramblings made no sense. Something about saving me from danger. The cops arrested her for stalking, but her SUV held something worse. A knife, duct tape, and a map with my roots marked. My blood ran cold. Was she planning something darker? The police couldn't confirm intent, but I knew the truth. She wasn't protecting me, she was hunting me. But there was a twist. Ellen's phone had texts from an unknown number urging her to keep watching me. Someone else was involved, pulling strings. The police traced the number to a burner. Untrackable. I moved out of my apartment that week, crashing with Rachel, but the fear followed. Who was the other person? Were they still out there? I'm in a new town now, but safety feels like a lie. I still check my mirrors, my locks every night. Ellen's locked up, facing charges, but the texts from that unknown number haunt me. The police say it's a dead end, but I've noticed things. A car idling too long near my new place, a shadow moving in my peripheral vision. I don't know if I'll ever escape that fear. Rachel checks in, but even she can't shake my paranoia. The woman in the SUV changed how I see the world. I used to think I was invisible, just a waitress blending into the background. Now I know someone's always watching, waiting for a chance to strike. Trust your gut, it's never wrong. Ellen taught me that, and so did the faceless figure behind her. I carry a taser now, park under streetlights, and never drive the same. Shoot twice. If you feel eyes on you, don't ignore it. The danger might be closer than you think, and it might not be alone. I'm restocking shelves in the quiet hardware store where I work, the late shift dragging on. When I feel eyes on me, I turn, and there he is, a man in a worn jacket, staring from the aisle's end, his gaze cold and unblinking. He starts walking toward me, slow but deliberate, his hand twitching at his side. My heart races. This isn't a customer. I back away, but he keeps coming, closer, too close. Suddenly, a forklift roars to life, and my coworker charges forward, forcing the man back. The stranger is driven out, but his eyes lock onto mine as he flees, promising something sinister. This isn't just a creepy encounter. It's the start of a chilling mystery that will haunt me beyond these walls. Who was he and why me? One thing's certain. He's not gone for good, and I'm not safe. I'd been working at Harper's Hardware in a small town outside Pittsburgh for 6 months, a job I took to pay the bills while figuring out my next move. The store was a sprawling, fluorescent-lit maze of tools and lumber. Quiet most nights, except for the hum of the air conditioning. That night, I was on the late shift, restocking paint cans in aisle 12, the clock ticking toward 10 p.m. My co-worker, Leo, was in the back, moving pallets with the forklift, leaving me alone in the front. The store felt emptier than usual, the kind of quiet that makes you jump at your own shadow. I was stacking cans when I felt it, a prickle on the back of my neck, like someone was watching. I turned, and there he was, standing at the end of the aisle. A strange man, his jacket tattered, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. He didn't move at first, just stared, his face gaunt, his hand twitching like he was gripping something I couldn't see. My mouth went dry. Customers don't look at you like that. I tried to focus on the cans, but he started walking toward me, his steps slow, deliberate, his eyes never leaving mine. I backed up, my heart pounding, trying to stay calm. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice shakier than I wanted. He didn't. Answer just kept coming, closing the gap. He was trying to get close to me, and every instinct screamed danger. His hand moved to his pocket and I froze, imagining a knife or worse. I glanced around. No one else in sight, the store too big, too empty. I was about to shout for Leo when I heard the roar of the forklift. Leo, driving the machine, sped toward us, the forks raised like a threat. He shouted at the man to back off, maneuvering the forklift to block his path. The man's eyes flicked to Leo, then back to me, a flicker of rage crossing his face. He was forced out of the store, stumbling backward as Leo advanced, but as he reached the exit, he looked at me, his stare promising something I couldn't name. Then he was gone, disappearing into the parking lot. My knees buckled, and I leaned against the shelves, catching my breath. Leo parked the forklift and jogged over. "You okay, Mia?" he asked, his face tight with worry. I nodded, but I wasn't okay. That man had been after me, and I didn't know why. Leo said he'd seen him lurking earlier, watching me from different aisles. "Creep didn't buy anything," he added, just kept staring. We called the manager, Sophie, who checked the security footage. It showed the man entering an hour earlier, wandering the store, always circling back to where I was working. My stomach churned. He'd been tracking me. Sophie called the police and an officer. Deputy Harris took my statement. I described the man trying to approach me and Leo using the forklift to drive him out, but I had little else to offer. No name, no clear motive. Harris said they'd patrol the area, but without a crime, there wasn't much they could do. "Probably just a drifter," he said, but his words didn't reassure me. That man's eyes weren't random, they were locked on me like he knew me. I stayed late to finish my shift, but every creak of the store made me jump, every shadow a threat. The next day, I couldn't shake the encounter. I kept seeing his face, those cold, unblinking eyes. I told my roommate Clara about it, and she frowned. "Sounds like he was targeting you. Any exes or weirdos from your past?" I didn't think so. I'd had a quiet life, no drama since moving here. But her question got me thinking. A few months back, I'd gotten odd messages on my work email. Anonymous, vague stuff like, "I see you." I'd ignored them, assuming spam, but now they felt sinister. Was this guy connected? I checked the store's footage again with Sophie, zooming in on his face. It was grainy, but his features stuck with me. Sharp cheekbones, a scar above his eyebrow. I printed a still and kept it, determined to figure out who he was. Leo suggested I carry pepper spray, and I bought some, clipping it to my belt. But the fear lingered. What did that man want from me? I started noticing things, my car keys misplaced, a strange call that hung up when I answered. Was he still watching? I called a friend, Evan, who'd done some amateur sleuthing for fun. I showed him the footage still and told him about the man's attempt to get close, and how Leo chased him out with the forklift. "This guy's bad news," Evan said, studying the image. "That scar's distinctive. I'll ask around." He posted the still on a local crime watch forum, anonymized, asking if anyone recognized him. A reply came fast. "Seen him at Rusty's bar, hangs with rough types." My heart sank. Was he a drifter or something worse? I went to Rusty's bar with Evan, nerves on edge. The place was dim, filled with hard-faced regulars. I spotted a guy who looked like my stranger, but it wasn't him. Just similar build, same vibe. A bartender, noticing my unease, asked what I was after. I showed her the still. "That's Jared," she said, voice low. "Comes in with a guy named Mitch. They're trouble, debts, fights, you name it." My pulse quickened. Jared. I had a name, but it only deepened the mystery. Why had Jared targeted me in the store? I gave the name to Harris, who ran it through their system. Jared Holt, 38, had a rap sheet. Assault, theft. Nothing major, but enough to make him dangerous. No address, no job, just a ghost in the system. Harris promised to look for him, but I wasn't hopeful. I kept working, but every shift was torture, my eyes darting to every customer. Then a week later, the camera outside the store caught something, a man in a familiar jacket standing across the street, watching. My heart stopped. It was him. I told Leo, who was ready to grab the forklift again, but Sophie called the cops first. Harris drove by, but Jared was gone. That night I found a note slipped under my car's wiper. "You can't hide." No signature, but it was his handwriting. I'd seen it in my nightmares. My fear turned to anger. I wasn't just a target. I was being hunted. I asked Evan to dig deeper, and he found a link. Jared's buddy, Mitch, had a history of extortion, targeting small-town workers. Was I a mark in some bigger scheme? I set a trap with Evan's help. Work a late shift, let the store look quiet, and wait. That night I hid in the break room, watching the cameras. At 11 p.m., Jared appeared, slipping through the front door. My heart raced as he moved toward my usual aisle. I grabbed the pepper spray, shouting, "Get out or I'll call the cops." He froze, eyes narrowing, then bolted when Leo revved the forklift from the back. The police arrived too late. He was gone. But they found a knife he'd dropped, etched with his initials. Evidence finally. Harris arrested Jared the next day, caught at a gas station. He claimed he was just looking in the store, but the knife tied him to the scene. He got a year for attempted assault, but Mitch was still out there. A shadow I couldn't shake. I quit the store, moved to a new apartment, trying to leave the fear behind. But one night my phone buzzed, an unknown number. The text read, "He wasn't alone." I deleted it, but the chill stayed. Someone's still watching, and I'm not free yet. A shadow flickered in the alley, gone before I could blink, but I wasn't alone anymore. At 3 a.m., Vilnius's silent streets hid secrets, and the white van that rolled into view was about to drag me into one. My name's Sophia, a 19-year-old, art student and part-time barista in Vilnius, Lithuania, a city where the old town buzzes with life, but the suburbs sleep under a heavy, eerie quiet. Last summer at approximately 3 a.m., I was returning home to my apartment in the sleeping district of Vilnius, Lithuania. Vilnius is a compact, neat town of about 500,000 people, and whatever nightlife there is, it happens only in the central district called the Old Town. Large suburbs full of Soviet concrete blocks can seem abandoned. At night, my home is within a walking distance from the center, so for me, it is completely normal to return home on foot, even at night. I just finished a grueling shift at the cafe, my apron reeking of espresso, my legs aching for rest. Walking home was my ritual, the crisp night air clearing the chaos of spilled lattes and demanding customers. But that night the darkness felt alive, its silence not peaceful but predatory, watching my every step. Then this white van appeared. I saw it quite far away, cruising at a slow speed in the first lane as if observing something. Then it steered into smaller lateral streets and stopped between two large blocks of flats, some 50 meters from me. The van itself is old, beaten up, and rusty. Similar ones are often used by small construction and relocation companies. Only, this one had no markings on it. It parked in a narrow alley, its lights off, the rusted frame blending into the Soviet-era concrete towers. My pulse quickened. I'd walked these streets hundreds of times, their cracked sidewalks and dim streetlights as familiar as my sketchbook. Vilnius was safe, or so I'd thought, but this van felt wrong, like a beast lying in wait. I slowed my pace, sticking to the shadows, my sneakers silent on the pavement. The air carried a faint tang of oil, and my breath fogged in the chill, betraying my presence. Then the driver's door opened with a groan that echoed in the stillness. The first door opened, and out came a man in his 40s or 50s wearing non-specific clothes, jeans, and some dark jacket. For several seconds he looked around cautiously, but I was too far away, and that in a non-illuminated area, so he either didn't notice or paid no attention to me. His movements were sharp, deliberate, like a thief who'd done this 1,000 times. He darted to a metal box bolted to the wall of a nearby building, rusted, padlocked, the kind scattered across Vilnius, supposedly for electrical wiring. He ran around the van and stopped in front of a large old metal box that was fixed to the wall of a nearby house nearby. You can see those boxes near all Soviet-area buildings, and I assume they contain distribution boards or some other electric equipment. As far as I know, those boxes are always locked. I held my breath, watching him pull a small tool from his pocket, his eyes scanning the darkness like a hawk. My heart thudded in my chest. What was he doing? Why here in the dead of night where no one would see? I pressed myself against the cold concrete wall, my heart hammering as the man worked on the box. The van was blocking the box so that you couldn't see it from the street, but I was at a lucky angle and able to observe what happened for a second or two. The man fiddled with a lock, opened the door, and took something out. Then he locked it and hastily ran back into the van, closing the rear doors. The van was already moving. It slowly picked up speed and drove away. His hands were swift, pulling out a small, black-wrapped package, compact, tightly sealed, before snapping the lock shut and sprinting back to the van. The engine growled to life, and the vehicle vanished into the night, leaving only a faint cloud of exhaust and tire tracks in the dust. I stood frozen, my mind racing. Was that drugs, cash, something worse? The alley felt suffocating, its shadows hiding answers I wasn't sure I wanted to know. At this moment, I remembered that it's not the first time I've seen this van. I actually saw it a lot at night, slowly driving around sleeping districts of Vilnius. I never paid attention to it, but still remembered it because there are very few cars at night. That rusty white van had been a ghost in my periphery for weeks, lurking in the quiet corners of Vilnius's suburbs. I'd dismissed it as a delivery truck, maybe a late-night worker. But now it felt sinister, like a hunter stalking the night. I hurried home, my keys jangling as I triple-locked my door. My studio apartment, cluttered with sketchbooks, half-finished canvases, and coffee mugs, felt exposed. Its thin walls and big windows no shield against the danger I'd glimpsed. I couldn't sleep. The image of that black package burned into my mind, the man's cautious glance replaying like a warning in a nightmare. The next day I told my friend Jonas, a fellow barista with a knack for conspiracy theories, over a smoke break behind the cafe. I told the story to several buddies, and we had a good laugh making up stories about secret drug distribution networks, spy messages and stuff. He smirked, tossing out ideas about black market deals or Russian spies, but his eyes darted nervously, betraying his bravado. "Stay sharp, Sophia," he said, crushing his cigarette. "This city's got secrets darker than you think." His words stuck with me, a splinter in my mind. That night walking home, I spotted the van again, idling near a deserted playground, 3 blocks from my building. My stomach dropped. Was it following me? I took a detour through a park, heart pounding, weaving between trees to lose any tail. The van's headlights flickered in the distance, trailing me like a predator. I sprinted home, my breath ragged, and locked the door, peeking through the blinds. The van didn't follow, but its presence clung to me like damp air, heavy and oppressive. A few days later, I saw it again, parked near a supermarket on the edge of the old town. I almost forgot it until last week. It was around 9:30 p.m. I was walking along the street separating the old town from the new town, right by the store belonging to large supermarket chains. There was a metal box on the wall. It was open, and a middle-aged man in builder uniform belonging to some construction company was squatting near it, so they're coming to take it every night, said the man. A woman in a store uniform stood nearby, nodding curtly. Aga, she muttered in Russian, her voice low and tense. They froze when they saw me, the man slamming the box shut with a clang, the woman shooting me a glare before vanishing inside the store. I hurried away, my skin crawling, the words, every night, echoing in my head. This wasn't a one-time deal. It was a routine, a system operating in plain sight. Woven into the city's fabric, I started tracking the van's appearances, jotting down locations in a notebook, alleys behind apartment blocks, empty parking lots, abandoned industrial zones, always near those metal boxes, always at night. 2 weeks I counted 7 spots, all in the quiet suburbs where no one asked questions. Was it a protection racket like Jonas had laughed about? Or something darker? Drugs, weapons, stolen goods? One night I hid behind a dumpster near a box, my phone's camera ready, my hands trembling. The van pulled up, and the man repeated his ritual, this time leaving a package inside. As he sped off, I snapped a blurry photo, the flash betraying my position for a split second. My heart stopped, but the van didn't slow. The photo felt like evidence, a weapon against the unknown, but I didn't know what to do with it. I was too deep, and the shadows were closing in. That blurry photo was a grenade in my pocket, one I didn't dare use but couldn't discard. I stopped sleeping, my nights filled with the hum of that van's engine, my days a haze of paranoia at the cafe. Every creak in my apartment, every car passing by made me jump, my sketchbook untouched as fear overtook my creativity. Jonas noticed my distraction, pulling me aside during a slow shift. "You're obsessed, Sophia," he said, half joking, his eyes searching mine. "Drop it before it eats you alive." But I couldn't let go. The van was a specter, haunting Vilnius's edges, and I'd seen too much to turn back. I scoured local forums, finding scattered posts about white vans and nighttime prowlers. One user linked them to petty thefts in the suburbs. Another claimed they were part of a protection racket bleeding small businesses dry. My hunch solidified. Those metal boxes were drop points for something illegal, and I'd stumbled into a web far bigger than one man. One evening, walking home, I saw the van parked a block from my building, its engine idling like a low growl. I hid behind a bus stop, my pulse racing, watching the man repeat his ritual. Unlock the box, grab a package, slip back to the van. But then a police car rolled by, its red and blue lights slicing through the dark. The van's engine roared, and it peeled out, swerving down a side street with a screech of tires. My breath caught in my throat. They'd seen the cops and bolted, confirming my worst fears. This wasn't just shady, it was criminal, and they were terrified of getting caught. I called the police, my voice shaking as I shared my photo and notes. The officer was gruff, skeptical, but took my statement, jotting down details. "Stay out of it," he warned, his tone sharp. "You don't know who you're dealing with." But I was already entangled, a witness to something I couldn't unsee. A week later, a news report hit like a shockwave. A police raid in a Vilnius suburb had busted a smuggling ring, using utility boxes to exchange cash, drugs, and stolen electronics across Eastern Europe. The white van was mentioned, its driver arrested, but associates remained at large, slipping through the cracks. My photo had tipped the police off, they said, but they urged caution, their words heavy with warning. "These people don't like witnesses," an officer told me, his eyes narrowing. My stomach churned, a cold dread settling in. Had the driver seen me that first night hiding in the shadows? Was I a target now? I started avoiding late shifts, taking winding routes home, but fear was a constant companion, seeping into every moment. My apartment, once a cozy haven for late-night sketching, felt like a trap, its thin walls and exposed windows offering no protection from the threats outside. Then, one night, I found a note taped to my door, scrawled in jagged handwriting. "Keep quiet." My hands shook as I clutched the paper, my breath shallow. I called the police again, but they found no fingerprints, no leads, just a dead end. The message was clear. Someone knew I'd talked, and they wanted me silent. I confided in my neighbor, Lena, a retired teacher with a no-nonsense edge who'd lived through Soviet times. "You've kicked a hornet's nest, girl," she said, pressing a can of pepper spray into my hand. "Stay sharp and don't walk alone." I took her advice, but the van vanished from the streets, its absence more terrifying than its presence. Were they gone, lying low, or watching me, waiting for a mistake? The uncertainty gnawed at me, a relentless weight I couldn't shake. The van was gone, but its ghost lingered in every shadow. I moved to a new apartment across town, changed my work hours to avoid late nights, and carried Lena's pepper spray like a talisman. Vilnius, my home since childhood, felt like a labyrinth of unseen threats, its quiet streets hiding predators I'd never noticed before. I honestly don't know what it's all about, but I had several ideas. The most realistic one is that there is some low-level illegal stuff going on, such as people paying local criminals for protection by leaving money inside specific electricity distribution boards while thugs come and pick it up at night. My theory was close, but the truth was uglier. A sprawling smuggling ring using my city as a hub, exploiting its sleepy suburbs to move their poison. I stopped walking home at night, splurging on cabs even for short trips, the cost a small price, for peace of mind. Every white van on the road made my heart race, every stranger's glance a potential threat, their eyes searching for a witness to silence. I shared my story on a local forum, warning residents about nighttime vans and shady exchanges at utility boxes. The responses were chilling. People who'd seen similar vans noticed odd drop-offs in their neighborhoods. One shopkeeper described a man in a builder's uniform demanding protection money outside his store. Another saw a van flee from police near the river. It wasn't just my corner of Vilnius. It was the whole city, a network of shadows operating under the surface. I started a group to share safety tips, stick to well-lit streets, travel in pairs, report suspicious activity to the police. It turned my fear into purpose, a way to protect others from the dangers I'd stumbled into, to reclaim some control over the chaos that had upended my life. The police never caught the ring's masterminds, and that absence haunts me. I scan news articles for updates, dreading another van sighting, another note. The warning, "Keep quiet," sits in a drawer, a grim reminder of how close I came to becoming a target. I'm more vigilant now, trusting my gut, avoiding risks I once shrugged off. If I'd ignored that van, walked past that alley, I'd still be blissfully ignorant, sketching in my apartment without a care. But ignorance isn't safety, and I'd rather know the truth, however terrifying. I honestly don't know what it's all about, but I had several ideas, and now I act on them every single time. Stay alert, question the darkness, and never assume you're safe. The night hides predators, and they're closer than you think. A piercing metallic scrape tore me from sleep, like nails clawing at my sanity. It was 3 a.m. in my quiet Tucson home, where the desert nights were supposed to be safe. I woke up to a strange noise, like metal scraping wood, my heart slamming against my ribs as I fumbled for a light. I crept to the living room, where the living room window pried open, The frame scratched, let in a chilling breeze. No one was there, but the jagged marks screamed intrusion. There was no one there, but I was terrified they'd gotten away, vanishing into the night. Who dared breach my sanctuary? What did they want? This isn't just a tale of a break-in. It's a plunge into a chilling mystery that turned my home into a battleground. Stay with me, because the truth is darker than you think. My name's Owen, a 32-year-old freelance writer who traded city chaos for a quaint Tucson bungalow, nestled where cacti outnumbered neighbors. I lived alone in a small house on the edge of town, my days filled with deadlines and the hum of desert life. The house was my refuge with creaky floors and windows that rattled in the wind, but I loved it until that night. I'd always been vigilant, double-checking locks, but lately I'd sensed something off. I woke up to a strange noise, like metal scraping wood a week earlier, dismissing it as a branch. But then I found a smudged footprint on my porch, a gate, swinging open, a faint whiff of motor oil lingering near my fence. I told myself it was nothing, but unease settled in like dust. My neighbor Nora had warned me about recent break-ins, petty thefts mostly, but one home had a window smashed, a cryptic note left behind. I shrugged it off. My street felt untouchable, a sleepy corner where dogs barked more than people prowled. But Nora's words lingered, and I started eyeing my windows, testing their latches. There was no one there, but I was terrified they'd gotten away from those other houses, and now maybe I was in their sights. I rigged a cheap motion sensor, but it triggered falsely, spooked by coyotes. My cat Shadow began yowling at the backyard, her green eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. Paranoia, I thought, but my gut screamed otherwise. That night, I was sprawled on the couch editing a manuscript, Shadow curled beside me. The house was still, the desert outside silent. Then came the sound, a strange noise, like metal scraping. Wood, sharp and deliberate, like a tool against my window. My heart lurched as I grabbed a flashlight, Shadow hissing, her fur bristling. I moved slowly to the living room, the air thick with dread. I found the living room window pried open, the frame scratched, the lock twisted, a cold draft snaking in. There was no one there, but I was terrified they'd gotten away, their absence a mocking echo. I stood, flashlight trembling, the realization hitting. Someone had breached my home and I'd been asleep defenseless. You never know who's out there, Nora had said, and now I felt it. My sanctuary was a target and I was alone in the crosshairs. The open window gaped like a wound, its splintered frame accusing me of negligence. I gripped my flashlight, Shadow's hisses urging me forward. I checked the house and found muddy footprints smeared across the floor, trailing from the window to the kitchen. My throat tightened. Someone had been inside, steps from where I'd slept. A knife was left on the floor, its blade catching. The light, abandoned in a hurry. I found the living room window pried open, the frame scratched, the evidence stark. But there was no one there, but I was terrified they'd gotten away, their escape a silent taunt. I dialed 911, my voice shaking. Someone broke into my house. Shadow yowled, her eyes darting to the shadows as I grabbed a kitchen chair, wedging it under the door handle, heart pounding. I searched the house, flashlight beam slicing the dark, Shadow at my heels. The footprints ended at the back door, locked, tight. How had they slipped out? In the dining room, I found a scrap of paper that said, "This is your warning," tucked beneath a coaster, the ink bold and fresh. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a theft, it was a message, deliberate and personal. I can't stop thinking they'll come back, the note's words searing into my mind. I called Nora, who arrived in minutes, her face ashen as she read the note. "Oh, and this is bad," she whispered, urging me to leave, but I couldn't. Not yet. I called the police, but they couldn't find anyone, their search yielding only the knife and footprints, too smudged for prints. The police thought it was a botched burglary, but had no leads, their assurances empty as they taped the window shut. Every noise makes me jump, the house now a maze of threats. I stayed up, nailing boards over the window, shadow pacing, her growls a constant alarm. I can't stop thinking they'll come back. The note a venomous promise. I checked the attic, dreading what I'd find, and discovered a torn glove, reeking of oil, hidden in the rafters. Someone had been up there, maybe watching me sleep. My stomach churned. This was no random intruder. They knew my house, my habits. Every noise makes me jump, shadows, yowls, my only warning. I called the police again, handing over the glove, but they warned it might not lead anywhere. The note wasn't a one-off. It was a declaration of intent, and I was trapped in its shadow. I installed new locks, set up a camera, but the fear was relentless. My home a battlefield where every creak was an enemy. Nora stayed over, her presence a small comfort, but sleep was a stranger. I found a faint scratch on my bedroom window, as if they'd tested it too. The realization hit. They'd been planning this, studying me. I can't stop thinking they'll come back. The notes thread a pulse in my veins. I started noticing, or a pickup truck idling down the street, its driver gone when I approached. A flicker of light in my backyard at midnight. The police patrolled but found nothing, their reports piling up with no answers. Every noise makes me jump, the desert's silence now a lie. My home was no longer mine. It was a stage for someone's game, and I was the unwilling star. The note, "This is your warning," was a splinter in my soul, pushing me to uncover who'd defiled my home. I can't stop thinking they'll come back, the fear a constant drumbeat. I stopped working, my life reduced to scanning camera feeds and stroking Shadow's fur for calm. Every noise makes me jump, each creak a phantom intruder. I showed the note to Nora, who begged me to crash at her place, but I needed truth, not a hideout. The police were useless. I called the police, but they couldn't find anyone. Their case stalled without a suspect. But I wasn't done. I sent the glove to a private lab for DNA, hoping for a lead, and dove into the clues left behind. The lab matched the glove to Ethan Ward, a small-time crook with a rap sheet for vandalism and theft. No major convictions, but he'd been linked to a string of break-ins across Tucson. My pulse quickened. Ward was real, and he'd been in my attic. I found a blurry snapshot from a gas station camera nearby, showing a man in a hooded jacket, cigarette in hand, near my street the night of the break-in. It fit Ward's profile, but the note's handwriting didn't match his known samples, hinting at a second player. A partner? A mastermind? I took the photo and lab results to the police, but Ward was a ghost, no current address. The police thought it was a botched burglary, but had no leads, leaving me to chase shadows alone. Nora and I scoured online forums, finding whispers of Ward working with a local smuggling ring, targeting homes for more than theft. Intimidation, control. My isolated bungalow was a perfect hit. The note a demand for compliance, though no ransom was clear. I found a hidden micro camera in my mailbox, its lens trained on my front door, feeding footage to an unknown source. My skin crawled. They'd been surveilling me, mapping my life. I yanked it out, delivering it to the police, who traced it to a black market dealer tied to the ring. A raid on the dealer's warehouse nabbed 3 low-level thugs, but Ward slipped through, and the camera's data was erased. The raid didn't quell my dread. I can't stop thinking they'll come back, knowing the smuggling ring was still active, Ward still free. A second note appeared, shoved through my mail slot. Last chance. No demands, just a burner phone number. I didn't call. but reported. Then the police hit another dead end, untraceable. The ring was closing in and I was their mark. I stashed my valuables at Nora's, sleeping with a bat and shadow by my side. The camera feeds my lifeline. But the fear was a beast, clawing at my sanity. Every noise makes me jump. The note's a countdown to doom. I joined a neighborhood watch, rallying neighbors to patrol. But the terror lingered. My home a fortress under siege. 8 months later, a multi-city sting crushed the smuggling ring, netting Ward and 12 others for extortion, burglary, and racketeering. The glove, camera, and notes pinned Ward to my case, and I testified, staring him down as he sat, cuffed and silent in court. He got 12 years, but the second note's author remained a mystery, a loose thread that haunts me. I can't stop, thinking they'll come back, the fear a permanent guest in my mind. I sold my bungalow, moving to a fortified condo downtown, but every noise makes me jump. Shadows meows my only solace. Therapy helps, teaching me to cage the fear, but my sense of safety is shattered. Lock your windows, trust your gut, I learned in the hardest way. That window wasn't just a breach, it was a wake-up call, one I'll never forget. I've rebuilt my life. No open windows, no unguarded moments. Cameras watching every angle. Shadow stays close, my fierce protector, and Nora's my rock, checking. In Weekly, the police swear the ring's gone, but the second note's shadow lingers. A reminder someone's still out there, uncaught. I lead the neighborhood watch now, teaching others to secure their homes, sharing my story to save them from my fate. Lock your windows, trust your gut, I urge, because I didn't, and it nearly broke me. You never know who's out there, waiting for a crack to slip through. This isn't just about surviving a break-in, it's a rallying cry. Trust your gut, that instinct that woke me, that drove me to fight. Bolt your doors, seal your windows, and listen to the sounds that don't belong. The ring saw my home as prey, but I turned predator, exposing their scheme. You never know who's out there, but you can be prepared. The world's full of Wards skulking in the dark, but it's also full of Owens. People who can reclaim their ground if they heed the signs. Don't wait for the scrape, the knife, the note. Act now, fortify your life, and never let the night steal your peace. A shadow emerges from the alley, his eyes cutting through the dusk like knives. He stands motionless, watching us, his breath clouding in the chilly Oregon air. It's 7:15 p.m., and I'm walking home with my little sister through a silent suburban street where darkened houses and empty lots stretch into the shadows. My pulse spikes. He's not from here, he shouldn't be here. I grip Lily's hand, whispering, "Don't stop." I'm Mia, 17, and Lily's 11. It was just another evening, and I was walking home from the park with my younger sister. We spent the afternoon at the swings, laughing and eating ice cream. But now it was getting dark, and we still had a few blocks to go. Mom's working late at the diner, so it's just us, navigating the cracked sidewalks of Elm Street, a quiet corner of town edged by an abandoned factory lot. The air's sharp, the sky a deepening bruise, and every rustle, leaves, a distant dog, sets my nerves on edge. That man's stare feels like a trap closing. We were only a few blocks from home when a white van pulled up beside us. It's old, rusted, with tinted windows that reflect nothing. The engine growls, slow and predatory, as it matches our pace. I glance back. The man's gone, swallowed by the alley. My stomach twists. Was he with the van? I pull Lily closer, her small hand cold in mine. "Keep your eyes forward," I say, but my voice betrays me. The van's presence is a weight, pressing down, and I know something's wrong. The van creeps alongside us, its tires crunching on loose gravel. I pull Lily onto the grass, my pulse racing. A man stepped out of the van and started walking toward, trying to grab me. I screamed and tried to fight him off, but he was too strong. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with a scruffy beard and a hoodie that shadows his face. "You girls lost?" he calls, his voice smooth but laced with something, darker. "I can give you a ride." I shake my head, gripping Lily's hand. "We're fine." But he keeps coming, his steps deliberate, boots heavy on the pavement. The street's deserted. No cars, no lights in the windows. My phone's buried in my pocket, but reaching for it means letting go of Lily. "Mia, I'm scared," she whispers, her voice barely audible. I nod, scanning for an escape. The van's still there, engine idling. Its side door cracked open like a waiting jaw. "Just stay close," I say, but my voice shakes. The man's closer now, his hand outstretched. "It's cold out. Let me help you." His smile's a mask, thin and wrong. I've heard the stories. School talks about strangers. News about kids vanishing in towns like ours. A girl disappeared last month, her bike found near the factory lot. My gut screams to run, but the nearest alley's too far, and he's gaining. "We don't want to ride," I say, louder, pulling Lily behind me. He tilts his head, eyes narrowing. "Don't be difficult." His tone hardens, and his hand shoots, outbrushing my arm. I yank back, heart pounding, and shove Lily toward a mailbox. "Stay there," I hiss. She's trembling, but her eyes are fierce. He steps closer, his shadow swallowing us. I fumble for my phone, but he's too fast. His fingers clamping onto my wrist. "Get in the van," he snarls, pulling me toward the open door. I scream, kicking, my sneakers scraping the ground, but his grip's iron, dragging me closer to the darkness inside. I thrash against the man's grip, my screams echoing down the empty street. I was screaming and fighting, but he was too strong. Then my sister started screaming for help, and it was so loud it echoed down the street. Her screams caught the attention of a passerby, and the man panicked and let me go, running back to his van and speeding off. Lily's voice is a lifeline, shrill and desperate. "Help, he's taking her!" The man stumbles, his eyes wild, scanning for the source. I slam my knee into his thigh, breaking free, my wrist burning. He lunges again, but a shout stops him. A jogger sprinting toward us, yelling, "Get away from them!" The man bolts, diving into the van. Tires screech as it roars away, swallowed by the dusk. I collapse onto the pavement, pulling Lily into my arms, both of us sobbing. The jogger, middle-aged man with a shocked face, calls 911. White van tried to grab two girls on Elm Street. Lily's trembling, her small hands clutching my jacket. I can still feel his grip, the van's door gaping like a mouth. Police arrive, their flashlights sweeping the street. The police came, but they couldn't find the van or the man. They said it sounded like an attempted kidnapping, but they didn't have enough evidence to track him down. I describe him: hoodie, beard, maybe 6 feet, and the van white with a rusted fender. They take notes, but their skepticism is clear. "No license plate?" I shake my head, frustration boiling. The jogger says he saw the van turn toward the Bio factory district, but a patrol returns empty-handed. My chest tightens. He's gone, but the fear stays. The cops drive us home, their cruiser's lights flashing silently. Mom's waiting, her face pale, hugging us so tight it hurts. That night left me so traumatized I couldn't walk alone anymore, and I always felt like someone was watching me. I lie awake, replaying his eyes, his grip, the van's open door. Lily's quiet now, clutching her stuffed bear, refusing to go. Outside, Mom installs heavier locks, signs us up for self-defense classes, but it feels like locking the barn after the horse is gone. The world's different, darker, sharper, full of threats. I meet Detective Harris the next day, spilling every detail, the alley, the van, his voice. I still felt like someone was watching me. He nods, writing notes, but repeats the same line. No plate, no clear description. It's a tough case. He mentions a string of attempted abductions in the county, white vans tied to several, but no arrests. Stay vigilant, he says. Vigilant like that stops a predator. I checked the news, finding a report about a missing teen, her backpack found near the factory lot. Was it him? Days later, I find a knotted rope in our backyard, tucked under a shrub. It's rough, not ours. My hands shake as I hide it in my drawer, not telling Mom. Was it his? Did he come back? I notice things. Tire tracks in the mud by our alley. A cigarette butt near the mailbox. My mind says it's nothing, but my body knows better. Lily's drawings are haunting. A white van, a man with no face. Months crawl by and the investigation stalls. The van's a ghost, the man a phantom. I escort Lily everywhere now, avoiding alleys, my eyes scanning every car. I still felt like someone was watching me, my skin prickling at every revving engine or shadowed corner. Mom says we're okay, but she checks the locks twice, her gaze lingering on the street. We don't speak of it, but the fear's a constant shadow, trailing us like a third sister. One afternoon, I'm at the library, scrolling through a local crime forum. A post stops me cold. White van on Elm Street last week. Guy tried to grab a kid. Cops lost him near the factory. My hands tremble. Elm Street, our street. Comments pile up. Van sightings, near misses. One user mentioning a knotted rope left in their yard. I pull the rope from my drawer, its fibers biting my palm. Is this his calling card? Was he marking us for another try? I show Detective Harris the rope, the cigarette butt, the tire tracks. He bags them, promising to follow up, but his voice is heavy with doubt. Could be unrelated, he says. Not connected. Like Lily's screams didn't shatter the night. I find an article online. Suspected trafficking network in Oregon. White vans linked to disappearances. No arrests, no names, just a warning to stay alert. My blood runs cold. Was he a lone wolf or part of a larger web? The fear reshapes our lives. I see vans everywhere. White, gray, black. Each a potential threat. Lily stops playing outside, her eyes flicking to windows at night, her small hands checking the locks. One evening, I spot a new post. Van spotted on Elm Street again, rope found in park. My heart drops. I search the backyard, finding nothing. But the air feels heavy, like eyes are watching. I don't tell Mom, but I keep my phone charged. A knife in my bag. He's out there driving, waiting for the next scream, the next girl. What did he want? To take me? To sell me? Or something worse? The rope, the van, the eyes. They're my proof. Safety's a fragile lie, and some predators never stop hunting. In a world where a walk home can end in darkness, survival is all we have. A stranger's smile can hide a blade. At a deserted gas station, under flickering fluorescent lights, I met a man who asked for help with his tank. His voice was calm, his eyes too steady, but something in his stare froze my blood. I said yes, not knowing I was stepping into a trap that would haunt me for years. My name's Ethan, and this is the night a simple act of kindness turned into a brush with danger I'll never forget. For privacy, I'm keeping names and places vague. I was 28, working the graveyard shift at a gas station in a small town. My job was monotonous. Clean pumps, stock shelves, wait for the occasional trucker. That night, around 3 a.m., a beat-up sedan pulled up to pump 3. The lot was empty, the air thick with silence. A man got out, maybe 40, scruffy, wearing a worn jacket. He approached the counter, his boots scuffing the pavement. He asked if I could pump his gas. Said his hands were shaky from a long drive. I shrugged. Slow night, why not? I grabbed the nozzle, started filling his tank, but his stare never left me. His smile was tight, unnatural, like he was sizing me up. My gut screamed to get back inside, but I ignored it. That was my first mistake. The pump clicked as the tank filled, but the man's stare pinned me in place. He stood too close, asking questions, where I lived, if I worked alone. I mumbled vague answers, trying to keep it light, but his tone was off, like he was probing. His smile never reached his eyes, and he kept glancing at the station's cameras. My skin prickled. Those cameras hadn't worked in months. I finished pumping, handed him the receipt, and stepped back. He didn't leave, just leaned against his car, watching me. "You're a good kid," he said, but the words felt like a threat. I nodded, backing toward the store, my hand brushing the pepper spray in my pocket. Inside, I locked the door, heart racing. Through the glass, I saw him linger, staring at the station. He didn't get in his car, didn't drive away. Just stood there, motionless, for 10 minutes. Then he walked to the edge of the lot, where shadows swallowed him. I grabbed the phone, ready to call 911, but what could I say? He hadn't done anything yet. The silence was worse than any noise, heavy with menace. I checked the back door, the windows, every lock. Then a faint scrape outside, like metal on concrete. I froze, straining to hear. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, circled the building. He was still here, testing the perimeter. I flipped through the old security log, looking for anything similar. A note from a coworker caught my eye. Weird guy in a sedan, asked too many questions, watched. "Me all night?" Same guy. I didn't know, but the coincidence chilled me. The footsteps stopped and I peered out the window. The sedan was gone, but a cigarette butt smoldered on the pavement. Fresh, still glowing. He'd been right there, and I hadn't seen him leave. The rest of my shift was a blur, my eyes darting to every shadow. I told my boss Tom about the man, but he shrugged it off, said I was jumpy. I wasn't convinced. The next night, the sedan was back, parked across the street, lights off. My heart sank. He was targeting me. I stayed inside, watching from the counter. This time he didn't approach, just sat in his car, staring at the station for an hour. I called Tom, who told me to lock up and wait for him. When he arrived, the sedan was gone, but we found another cigarette butt, identical to the first. Tom's face tightened. He'd seen it before. We checked the stations. Old records, digging through months of logs. A pattern emerged. Late-night visits from a man in a sedan, always asking personal questions, always lingering. A former co-worker had quit after a similar encounter, saying she felt hunted. I reported it to the police, but they said without a crime they couldn't do much. Frustration burned, but fear burned hotter. I started carrying a knife, parking closer to the door and checking my car for tampering. At home, I found a note slipped under my door. "Nice to see you." No signature, just scrawled letters. My hands shook as I called the cops again. They took the note but had no leads. The man's face haunted me. Those cold, calculating eyes. I asked around town, showing a sketch I'd made from memory. A bartender recognized him. Seen him at the bar, always alone, always watching people. No name, no address, just a ghost in a sedan. The notes kept coming, each one bolder. "I know your schedule. I'm closer than you think." I was trapped. My life a maze of fear with no way out. The nightmare hit its peak a week later. I was closing up, alone, when the sedan rolled in, slower than before. The man got out, same jacket, same smile, and walked toward the counter. My heart pounded as I gripped the knife in my pocket. He asked for gas again, but this time he leaned in, whispering, "You shouldn't be here alone." His eyes locked on mine. I stammered, "Pumps open, go ahead," and backed away, hitting the silent alarm under the counter. He didn't move, just stared, then pulled something from his jacket, a small knife glinting under the lights. I froze, my breath catching. "Don't scream," he said, stepping closer. I bolted for the back room, slamming the door and barricading it with a shelf. I called 911, whispering, "He's here, he's got a knife." Footsteps paced outside, then stopped. Sirens wailed, and I heard tires screech. The police caught him 2 blocks away, his sedan packed with evidence. More notes, photos of me at work, and a list of my shifts. His name was Daniel, a drifter with a history of harassment. They arrested him, but his words echoed. I wasn't alone. During questioning, he hinted at a partner, someone who'd scouted the station before him. The cops found no proof, but a search of his car turned up a second phone, with texts from an unknown number. "Keep her scared." My blood ran cold. Someone else was out there, watching. I quit the gas station and moved to a new town, but the fear clings to me. I still check my locks, my windows every night. Daniel's in jail, but those texts haunt me. Who was he working with? The police say it's a dead end, but I've seen cars linger too long outside my new place, headlights flicking off when I look. I don't know if I'll ever feel safe again. Tom calls to check in, but even he can't ease the paranoia. That man's stare changed me forever. I used to think kindness was free, a small gift to a stranger. Now I know it can cost you everything. Trust. Your instincts, they're your first line of defense. Daniel taught me that, and so did the shadow behind him. I carry a taser now, avoid late-night shifts, and never help strangers without backup. If something feels wrong, it is. Don't wait. For proof to run, the danger might already be too close. I'm curled up in my best friend's guest room, the glow of our late-night movie marathon fading as we drift towards sleep. The house is still, the kind of quiet that feels safe. Until she speaks. In the dark, she says something strange. Her voice low, almost not her own. "They're waiting for you outside." My heart skips, eyes snapping open. Was she asleep or awake? The words send a chill through me, starting a night of unease that won't let go. This isn't just a weird moment. It's the spark of a terrifying mystery that will unravel everything I thought I knew about her. What did she mean? And who's they? One thing's clear. Those words weren't random, and this night is about to become a nightmare I can't escape. I'd known Lena since high school, my best friend through every breakup, job change, and late-night heart-to-heart. She lived in a cozy house on the edge of a small Maine town, a place where the biggest drama was a neighbor's barking dog. That weekend I'd driven up for a girls' night. Movies, wine, the usual. We'd laughed through a rom-com, then crashed in her guest room, sharing the bed like we did back in our teens. The house was warm, familiar, and I felt safe as we whispered about old memories until our eyes grew heavy. But around 2 a.m., the air shifted. I was half asleep when Lena said something odd, her voice low and strange, like it wasn't fully hers. "They're waiting for you outside," she murmured, the words slicing through the quiet. My heart froze, a chill creeping over me. Was she talking in her sleep, or was she awake? I lay still, eyes wide, staring into the dark. Her words sparked a deep unease, making the room feel smaller, the shadows sharper. I whispered, "Lena, what did you say?" No answer, just her steady breathing as if she'd never spoken. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that those words meant more than a dream. I didn't sleep after that. Lena's strange whisper echoed in my mind, each syllable heavy with menace. I felt uneasy all night, my eyes darting to the window, half expecting to see someone out there. The curtains were closed, but the darkness beyond felt alive, watching. I checked my phone. 2:30 a.m., too late to do anything but lie there, heart racing. Was Lena messing with me? She wasn't the prank type, but that voice. It wasn't her usual warmth. It was cold, deliberate, like a warning. At dawn, I crept downstairs, the house creaking under my feet. Lena was still asleep, her face peaceful. Nothing like the eerie figure from the night. I made coffee, trying to shake the dread, but her words kept haunting me. When she joined me, yawning, I asked, "Did you say something weird last night?" She frowned, confused. "Like what?" I repeated her words. "They're waiting for you outside." And her eyes widened, then darted away. "Must have been dreaming," she said too quickly. Her smile was forced, and I knew she was hiding something. What had Lena meant by that creepy statement? I couldn't let it go. Lena's house, once a safe haven, now felt like a trap. I noticed things. Her phone buzzing with texts she ignored. A locked drawer in her desk I'd never seen before. Was she in trouble? I called my brother Gabe, who'd always been good at reading people. I told him about Lena's unsettling whisper and how it started a sleepless, anxious night. "Sounds like she's mixed up in something," he said. "Ask her directly, but watch your back." His words fueled my suspicion. Was Lena keeping secrets? I stayed another day, pretending everything was fine. But I watched her closely. That night. We watched another movie, but the tension was thick. I waited until we were in bed, the room dark, and asked, "Lena, what's going on? That thing you said, it freaked me out." She sighed, her voice tight. "I don't remember saying it, Ellie, just drop it." But her tone was off, defensive. Her words from the night before kept replaying, and I couldn't shake the unease. I lay awake, listening to her breathing, wondering if she'd speak again. At 3 a.m., I heard it, a faint creak from downstairs. My heart jumped. Lena's strange words echoed in my head, urging me to check. I slipped out of bed, grabbing my phone for light, and crept to the stairs. The living room was dark, but a shadow moved near the front door. A figure too tall to be Lena. I froze, my breath catching. Was this they? I backed away, heart pounding, and dialed 911, whispering my location. The figure paused, then slipped out the door, gone before the cops arrived. The police found nothing, no footprints, no forced entry. Lena woke up, confused, claiming she hadn't heard a thing. "Maybe it was a dream," she said, but her eyes avoided mine. I didn't buy it. Her creepy whisper had started this, and now someone was in her house. I told the officer about Lena's words, and he noted it but seemed skeptical. "Could be sleep-talking," he said, leaving me with a card and a promise to patrol. I felt exposed, like the night itself was watching. Back at my apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about Lena. I dug into her life, feeling guilty but desperate. Her social media was normal, smiling photos, work updates, but I found a cryptic post from a month ago. "Some doors shouldn't open." It chilled me, echoing her whisper. I called Gabe again, who suggested checking her contacts. I remembered a guy she'd mentioned, Owen, a coworker who'd been weird lately. Was he involved? I messaged a mutual friend, Nora, who said Owen had a shady side. Rumors of debts, late-night deals. My stomach twisted. Was Lena's whisper tied to something dangerous? I confronted Lena over coffee, showing her the post. "What's going on?" I asked. She paled, then admitted she'd borrowed money from Owen, who was pressuring her to pay. "I didn't mean to scare you," she said, tears in her eyes. "I must have been dreaming about him." But her story felt thin. Her words that night had been too specific, too chilling. I pushed, and she clammed up, leaving me with more questions. I set a trap with Gabe's help. Stay at Lena's again. Act normal, and watch. That night we slept in the guest room, my nerves on edge. At 2 a.m., Lena stirred, her voice low. "They know where you are," she whispered. The words sent a shiver through me, reigniting that night of unease. I shook, her awake demanding answers. "It's Owen," she sobbed. "He's after me and now you're involved." My heart stopped. Was Owen the shadow I'd seen? We called the police, but before they arrived, a car idled outside, headlights off. I grabbed a kitchen knife, shouting, "Get out or I'll—" "Call the cops." The car sped off, but not before I saw Owen's face in the driver's seat. The police caught him later, drunk with a knife matching the one I'd seen. He claimed it was a misunderstanding, but Lena broke down, admitting he'd threatened her over the debt. Owen got 6 months for stalking, but I wasn't safe. A note appeared in my mailbox. "You're not invisible." No name, but it was a promise. I moved, changed my number, but the fear stays. Someone's out there, and Lena's whisper started it all. A whisper in the dark froze my blood. A soft voice warning me something was terribly wrong. At 10 years old, I didn't understand it. But that night at my friend's house changed me forever. My name's Claire, and I grew up in a tiny mountain town in Colorado. A place so small that a stoplight violation was front-page news. I had a friend back in elementary school, not my closest friend, but we moved in the same circles, and at one point she invited me over to her house for a sleepover. This friend of mine, we'll call her Emma, lived with her mom and stepdad. It was a big deal for me, a shy kid who clung to the safety of home. Emma's house was cozy, all wooden floors, warm lights, and the smell of fresh-baked cookies. But there was a tension I couldn't name, a heaviness that hung like fog. On the night of the sleepover, her mom was in due home until later in the evening. This meant that we were in the care of my friend's stepdad, and because of our bedtime, we weren't likely to see her mom until the following morning. That evening, Emma and I sprawled on the living room floor, playing board games and giggling over piles of popcorn. But her laughter felt forced, her eyes darting to the staircase whenever a floorboard creaked. She was different at home, quieter, her usual spark dimmed. I asked if she had a nightlight or anything and went to turn off the bedroom's main light, but she stopped me, telling me that her stepdad would be up soon to check on us, only when he made sure that we were tucked in bed. Would we be allowed to turn the nightlight on? Her voice was tight, almost urgent, and I frowned, confused by the strict rule. Why did it matter so much? I shrugged it off, climbing onto the air mattress they'd set up in her room. Emma's bedroom was small, cluttered with stuffed animals, glittery posters, and a tiny desk piled with school books, a safe haven, or so I thought. As we chatted about crushes and school drama, her tone shifted, her words slicing through the cozy atmosphere. The conversation took the sudden turn when out of nowhere she said, "I'm real glad you're here tonight. Sarah, thank you for sleeping over." The way her voice sounded gave them a distinctly unsettling feel. It was almost like my presence was going to prevent something bad from happening. Her eyes were wide, glistening with something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or desperation. I mumbled, "Sure, no problem," but my stomach knotted, a cold unease settling in. What was she so afraid of? Was it her stepdad, Mark, with his too wide smile and sharp eyes? The house creaked under the weight of the night, and heavy footsteps echoed up the stairs, slow and deliberate. Emma stiffened, her hands clutching the blanket, pulling it to her chin with a precision that felt rehearsed. I remember me and Annie hearing her stepdad walking up the stairs, and her swiftly laying back in bed with the covers up to her chin, and looking back on it there was a kind of military precision to it, and he seemed nervous, like she was focused of past some kind of inspection. I followed her lead, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't pinpoint, the air mattress squeaking under me. The door opened, and Mark stepped in, his silhouette filling the frame. His smile was broad, almost theatrical, but his eyes were cold, scanning the room like a predator. Then he walks over to Annie's bed to take a seat on the edge and leans in to give her a goodnight kiss, only instead of a quick peck on the cheek or forehead, before standing up again. He lingers a little. Too long after the kiss ender, his face hovered over hers, his breath audible in the oppressive quiet, and a chill ran down my spine, like I was witnessing something I wasn't meant to see. As he started to whisper something to Annie, she said aloud, "I want to talk to Sarah." I remember thinking, "So talk to me, I'm right here." Her voice cut through the silence, sharp and defiant, and Mark froze, his smile twitching, a crack in his facade. She cuts him off even more assertively that time, saying, "Dan, I want to talk to Sarah, please." There was a brief pause, and then he said, "Okay, sweetie." And after that, he finally left the room. He stood slowly, his movements deliberate, and glanced at me, his eyes lingering a moment too long, sending a shiver through me. He slipped out, closing the door with a soft click, but the room felt colder, the nightlight's faint glow too weak to push back the dread that settled over us. Emma stayed silent, her breathing uneven, her body rigid under the covers. I didn't dare speak, my mind racing. Her words from earlier, "I'm glad you're here," echoed, heavy with a meaning I couldn't grasp. Was she protecting herself? Protecting me, both of us? The weight of that moment pressed down, a puzzle I was too young to solve. The next morning, Emma's mom was home, cheerful and oblivious, flipping pancakes in the kitchen while the radio played soft country tunes. Mark was gone, off to work, and Emma seemed lighter, her smile almost convincing, but her eyes still held that shadow, a flicker of something broken. I went home, my stomach uneasy, but I didn't tell my parents. It felt wrong, like betraying Emma, but what could I say? Her stepdad was weird. I was just a kid, naive, thinking every family had its quirks, its unspoken rules. But the unease grew, a splinter in my mind. At school, Emma was quieter, her laughter rare, her shoulders hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. I noticed bruises on her arm once, faint purple marks she hid with a sleeve, brushing them off as a fall from her bike. My gut screamed something was wrong, but I stayed silent, afraid of making a fuss, of being the kid who stirred up trouble. Weeks later, I overheard my mom on the phone, her voice low, talking about Mark. Rumors he'd been fired from a teaching job years ago for inappropriate behavior with students. The words hit like a punch, but I didn't know what they meant. Not fully. They stuck with me, a puzzle piece that didn't fit but refused to be ignored. I started avoiding Emma's house, making excuses when she invited me over, guilt gnawing at me. We stayed friends, meeting at school or my place, but each time I saw her, she looked thinner, her eyes hollower, her smile a mask. I wanted to ask about Mark, about that night, but fear stopped me. Fear of being wrong, of breaking something fragile between us. I told myself she was fine, that I was imagining things, but deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. The months slipped by, and Emma faded from my life like a ghost. We drifted apart as middle school began, our friendship reduced to fleeting waves in the hallway, her face a reminder of that uneasy night. But her hollow eyes haunted me, a nagging guilt I couldn't shake, a voice whispering I'd missed something vital. Then, one spring day, my world shattered. The kid that got killed was Annie, and her killer was her own stepfather. I was devastated, beyond devastated, really. And it hit me harder because I felt like I'd known that he was bad. My mom broke the news, her voice trembling as she sat me down. Mark had murdered Emma and her mother, then turned the gun on himself, setting their house ablaze in a final act of destruction. Any stepdad was abusing her. He had been for years, and he's been documenting it too. Neighbors heard a whole bunch of shouting just before the murders, and were right about to call the sheriff when they heard the first few shots. Our town, a sleepy haven of 3,000 souls where gossip about a new diner was big news, reeled in shock. Nothing like this had ever happened here, and the weight of it crushed me. I sat in my room, sobbing, the memory of that sleepover crushing my chest. I should have said something that's the moral of the story, really, and it's just as much a warning to others as it is a lesson to myself. I'd felt Mark's wrongness, seen Emma's fear in her rigid posture, her desperate words, but I'd stayed silent, thinking it wasn't my place, that I was just a kid who didn't understand. Now Emma was gone, her life snuffed out, and I felt complicit, a bystander to her pain. My parents tried to comfort me, wrapping me in hugs, but I pushed them away, drowning in guilt that felt like a physical weight. At school, whispers followed me. Kids knew I'd been Emma's friend, and their stares burned, some curious, others accusing. I overheard a teacher mention Mark's history. Vague hints of prior complaints about his behavior swept under the rug by a school desperate to avoid scandal. Had others known? Had they seen signs and ignored them, like me? Why hadn't anyone acted? I dove into the news, desperate for answers, my 10-year-old self trying to make sense of the unthinkable. The fire had preserved fragments of evidence. Photos, videos, a digital trail of Mark's abuse hidden on his computer, a secret he'd guarded with his charming smile. Emma's mom had discovered it, sparking the violent argument that ended in gunfire, the neighbors' calls to the sheriff coming too late. But the police uncovered something even darker. Mark had ties to an online network, sharing his material with other predators, a secret life masked by his role as a devoted stepfather. My stomach churned, bile rising as I realized the truth. That night, his lingering kiss, his whispered words. Had I been in danger too? Had Emma's defiance, her insistence on talking to me, saved us both from something worse? The thought made me sick, my childhood innocence shattered, replaced by a raw, aching awareness of the world's darkness. I started seeing a counselor, spilling my guilt in tear-soaked sessions, but it clung like a stain, a wound that wouldn't heal. I'd failed Emma, and no amount of "you were just a kid" could undo that. My town felt tainted, its quiet streets and friendly faces hiding monsters I'd never imagined. I stopped trusting smiles, questioned every adult's motives. My once safe world now a minefield of suspicion. The police urged anyone with information to come forward, and I gave a statement recounting that night in halting words, but it felt hollow, a gesture that couldn't bring Emma back. I learned later that my account helped confirm Mark's pattern, but it was cold comfort. Emma was gone, her mother was gone, and I was left with the weight of what I hadn't done. Emma's death broke something in me, a fracture that never fully healed. We moved away 2 years later, my parents hoping a new town would erase the memories, but the guilt followed, a shadow I couldn't outrun. I lied to new friends at my new school saying I didn't know Emma, but her face haunted my dreams, her voice whispering, "I'm glad you're here," in endless loops. Therapy helped slowly, teaching me that I wasn't to blame, that a child couldn't have stopped a monster like Mark. But a part of me will always feel responsible, a quiet voice I fight to silence. I should have said something. That's the moral of the story, really, and it's just as much a warning to others as it is a lesson to myself. My silence didn't cause her death, but it didn't save her either, and that truth is a scar I carry. I'm 25 now, studying art in a bustling city far from that mountain town, but I carry Emma's lesson in every brushstroke, every moment. I volunteer with child advocacy groups, teaching kids to speak out when something feels wrong, urging adults to listen, to act. I shared my story online anonymously in a forum for survivors and witnesses, urging parents to watch for red flags, to question nice facades that hide predators. The responses flooded in. Survivors who'd endured abuse, friends who'd seen signs but stayed quiet, all carrying their own regrets, their own what-ifs. It wasn't just Mark. It's a system that lets monsters hide, that dismisses children's fears as imagination. I started a blog sharing safety tips. Trust your instincts, report odd behavior, protect the vulnerable, no matter how small the sign. It's my way of honoring Emma, turning my pain into purpose, ensuring her death wasn't in vain. Mark's network was never fully dismantled, and that knowledge lingers like a ghost. I check news obsessively for arrests, fearing others like him are still out there, hiding behind smiles and locked doors. Every overly friendly stranger makes me wary. Every whisper in a quiet room a reminder of that night. I'm stronger now, more aware, but the innocence of my childhood is gone, replaced by a vigilance I'll never shed. If you see something wrong, speak up even if it's hard, even if you're not sure. It might save someone. The world is full of predators and silence is their greatest ally. Don't let it be yours. A haunting piano melody pierced the silence of my Savannah home at midnight, each note echoing like a whisper from the grave. I bolted upright, my skin prickling in the dark. I woke up to the sound of a piano playing downstairs. A haunting melody, soft but clear, drifting from the living room below. Heart pounding, I crept down the creaking stairs, only to find the piano sat silent, untouched, the room empty under moonlight. I checked the living room, but no one was there. Who or what had played those notes? Was I alone, or was something lurking in the shadows? This isn't just a spooky tale. It's a descent into a chilling mystery tied to my home's dark past. Brace yourself, because what I uncovered will send shivers down your spine. My name's Hannah, a 27-year-old bookstore clerk who fell in love with a century-old Savannah house, its high ceilings and warped floors whispering history. I lived in an old house with creaky floors and high ceilings, a fixer-upper I bought cheap, drawn to its charm despite the peeling paint and drafty windows. I lived alone, save for my tabby cat, Clover, and the occasional creak of the house settling. But lately the house felt alive in a way that chilled me. I woke up to the sound of a piano playing downstairs a week before, a faint echo I blamed on a dream, but Clover's hissing at the living room door lingered in my mind. I'd found a faint smudge on the piano's keys, a scent of lavender I couldn't place. Just old house quirks, I told myself, but doubt crept in. The neighborhood was steeped in ghost stories. Savannah's history practically bled through the walls. My coworker Lucas swore my house was haunted, citing its past as a music teacher's home. I laughed it off, but his tales of unexplained noises stuck with me. I started noticing oddities, a cold spot in the hallway, Clover avoiding the living room, a faint hum at night I couldn't trace. The music stopped, but I felt a presence like someone was watching, a sensation that clung to me after that first piano incident. I checked the locks, dismissed the unease, but my gut whispered, "Caution. Pay attention to strange signs," Lucas had said, and I was beginning to listen. That night I was reading in bed, Clover curled at my feet, when the piano's notes rang out again, a haunting melody, soft but clear, weaving through the house like a spell. My heart seized as I grabbed a flashlight, Clover's eyes wide, her tail puffed. I tiptoed downstairs, the air heavy, each step creaking louder than the last. I checked the living room, but no one was there. The piano gleaming in the dark, its keys still. The piano sat silent, untouched, yet the melody's echo lingered in my ears. The music stopped, but I felt a presence, like someone was watching, an invisible gaze prickling my skin. I stood frozen, flashlight beam trembling, knowing someone, had stirred the keys. You never know who's out there, I thought. But this felt beyond human, tied to the house's bones. My refuge was unraveling, and I was alone with its secrets. The living room was a void, the piano's silence deafening after its ghostly song. Clover's growl rumbled, her eyes locked on the shadows as I swept my flashlight across the room. I found a window slightly ajar, a breath of humid air slipping through. The latch loose as if nudged by unseen hands. My pulse spiked. Had someone entered, or was the house itself alive? An old sheet of music was on the piano, brittle and yellowed, titled Lament in D minor, its notes matching the eerie melody I'd heard. The music stopped, but I felt a presence, like someone was watching, the air heavy with an unspoken warning. I checked the house, each creak a jolt to my nerves, but found no one. Only Clover's hisses trailing me like a warning. I called Lucas, his voice sharp despite the late hour. "Hannah, that's no coincidence," he said, urging me to search the attic for answers. The attic's trapdoor loomed above, a dark maw, but I climbed, flashlight trembling. In a dusty corner I found a locket engraved Eleanor 1923, nestled in a box of letters tied with faded ribbon. The lavender scent hit me, sharp and fresh, as if someone had just passed through. My heart raced. Eleanor was the pianist Lucas mentioned, a woman who died in this house, her death shrouded in whispers of tragedy. I can't shake the feeling something's in the house. The locket a chilling link to the melody's source. I called the police, desperate for clarity, but I called the police. But they found nothing, dismissing it as the house's age. They said it might be the house settling, their words hollow as I clutched the locket, its weight a tether to the unknown. Back downstairs, the piano's keys gleamed, and Clover refused to enter the room. Her fur bristled. I opened the letters, hands shaking, and found Eleanor's words. Pleas to a lover, mentions of a curse tied to her music. One letter spoke of a final performance, a piece she'd never play again, matching Lament in D minor. The lavender scent grew stronger, the cold spot in the hallway now a chill that followed me. I can't shake the feeling something's in the house, the melody a summons I couldn't ignore. I checked the window again, finding a faint scratch on the sill, as if it had been forced before. Was Eleanor's spirit here, or something darker, using her music to speak? The house felt alive, its walls whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear, and I was trapped in its song. The locket and letters consumed me, each word pulling me deeper into the house's shadowed past. I can't shake the feeling something's in the house, a certainty that gnawed at my every thought. I barely slept, Clover's uneasy pacing my only company as the piano remained silent, its presence looming like a judge. I think it's tied to the house's past, Lucas had warned, and now I believed him. I dug into the house's history, scouring library archives and old newspapers. I learned the house belonged to a pianist who died years ago, Eleanor Grayson, a prodigy whose career ended in 1923 after a mysterious collapse during a performance of Lament in D minor. Her death was ruled a suicide, but rumors swirled of a jilted lover, a cursed composition, and a spirit that never left. I tracked down a local historian, Clara, who'd studied Savannah's haunted homes. She confirmed Eleanor's story, adding a chilling detail. Eleanor's lover, a composer named Victor, vanished after her death, leaving behind whispers of a pact gone wrong. Clara showed me a photo of Eleanor, her face strikingly similar to the locket's portrait, her eyes haunted. The letters hinted at Victor's obsession with Eleanor's music, urging her to play Lament, despite her fear it was tainted. One letter, dated the night she died, read, "The music binds us even in death." My skin crawled. Was Victor's spirit here, tethered to Eleanor's piano? I can't shake the feeling something's in the house. The lavender scent now a constant, the cold spot spreading to my bedroom. I found a hidden compartment in the piano, revealed by a loose panel, containing a journal in Eleanor's hand. It detailed her terror of Lament, believing it summoned something dark, a presence that grew stronger with each performance. She'd tried to stop playing, but Victor's threats, physical and spectral, forced her on. The final entry, scrawled, in panic, read, "He's here in the keys." My hands shook as I read, the lavender scent choking me. That night the piano played again, a haunting melody, soft but clear, the same lament from Eleanor's sheet. I ran downstairs, but I checked the living room, but no one was there, the keys still, yet the music lingered. The piano sat, silent, untouched, but a new sheet appeared marked, "For Hannah." My blood froze. This wasn't just Eleanor. Something was reaching for me. I called Clara, who brought a medium, Elise, to the house. Elise sensed two presences, Eleanor's sorrow and Victor's malice bound by the piano. She urged me to destroy Lament, but as we touched the sheet, the room grew icy, the lavender scent overwhelming. A shadow moved across the wall, and Clover yowled, bolting upstairs. Elise fled, warning me to leave, but I couldn't. Not yet. I think it's tied to the house's past, and I was part of it now. The journal's last page had a symbol, a sigil Clara recognized as a binding spell, tying spirits to an object, the piano. I was living in their prison, and the music was their voice. I couldn't stay in Eleanor's prison any longer. I can't. Shake the feeling something's in the house. The piano's melody a chain I had to break. With Clara's help, I organized a ritual to sever the sigil's hold, guided by Elise's notes. We burned Lament in D minor in the backyard, the flames flaring as the lavender scent vanished, the cold spot fading. The piano fell silent, Clover finally entering the living room, her eyes calm. But Victor's shadow lingered. I think it's tied to the house's past, and I feared his malice wasn't gone. I sold the house, moving to a modern apartment, but I can't shake the feeling something's in the house I left behind. Its echoes in my dreams. Therapy helps, teaching me to live with the unknown. But the locket stays with me, a reminder of Eleanor's pain. I researched Eleanor further, finding her unmarked grave, where I left flowers, whispering thanks for her warning through the music. Victor's fate remains unknown, his name a ghost in Savannah's records. I joined a historical society, sharing Eleanor's story to honor her, urging others to know your home's history. Pay attention to strange signs, I tell them, because I ignored them and nearly lost myself to the house's curse. Know your home's history, because its past can claim you. The piano's notes no longer haunt me, but their lesson does. Listen to the whispers before they become screams. This isn't just a ghost story. It's a call to heed the unseen. Pay attention to strange signs, the creaks, the scents, the melodies that don't belong. Trust your instincts, dig into your home's past, and don't dismiss the impossible. Eleanor's music saved me, guiding me to break her chains, but Victor's shadow taught me the cost of ignorance. Know your home's history, because the past isn't always dead. It plays on, waiting for you to listen. The world's full of Eleanors, trapped in their pain, and Victors lurking in the dark, but it's also full of Hannahs, people who can face the unknown if they dare to hear its song.